Sequels are hard to make. As crazy as that sounds, it's easier to make an original idea than it is to expand upon that idea without retelling the original work. By definition, a sequel is a published, broadcast, or recorded work that continues the story or develops the theme of an earlier one. Sequels happen all the time in games, books, movies, television, and even YouTube. It's very common for a popular series to get a follow-up since the audience wants more. Unfortunately, in most cases, the sequel just isn't as good as the original, often with the sequel being rushed to catch the hype, or just not knowing how to develop the story or characters further, without, of course, rehashing the original. Very few times has a sequel to a piece of media truly expanded upon the story or theme of the original and was successful. This is very prominent in the games industry, where we get sequel after sequel after sequel for game franchises, and they just don't live up to the original. Companies like Valve will spend decades working on a follow-up to the original IP, and will sometimes just scrap the project altogether since it won't be a good follow-up to the original. This happened to Team Fortress 2 in its 9 years of development, and probably more of their games. Then, on the other side, you have companies like Ubisoft and EA that pump out sequels to games year after year, and they just aren't good. These are games that are either buggy, unplayable messes that were overly hyped, or games that just retell the same story as the one before, trying to ride the success of the previous game. Or, it's just sports game this year edition. And, unfortunately, this strategy is successful, no matter how bad the reviews or quality gets. Games like Halo 2, Half-Life 2, Uncharted 2, and Super Mario Bros. 2 are among a list of very few games that have truly surpassed the original and expanded upon a franchise that players wanted more of. It's hard to make a successful sequel, as the developers need to take what was good and bad from the original and improve on it, while expanding on the story, the world, the characters, and the gameplay. It's a balancing act, while juggling plates, a mountain climb on a tightrope. It is difficult to make a sequel. So if that's the case, how the hell did Scott Cawthon do it in 2 months? 2 months to make a follow-up to the first Five Nights at Freddy's? God, I can't even make a video in 2 months, and this man made a whole ass game! Literally, cue the Summoning Salt music playlist. This man was speedrunning success. Now, granted, the game is mostly comprised of PNG jump scares and has the texture quality of the Nintendo DS, but this is impressive nonetheless. You also have to bear in mind, Scott Cawthon isn't any old indie game developer. He is a failed indie game developer, with his latest game, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, receiving reviews like, "The characters are creepy and look like animatronic dolls." A series of reviews that he would take under consideration and create his last game ever as an indie game developer. Five Nights at Freddy's was going to be his last game before moving on with his life, which, as we all know, ultimately changed the indie game horror genre forever, creating one of the biggest franchises in all of gaming. But he wasn't done yet. Fueled by the explosive success of his new game franchise, and not wanting to fail again or fade into obscurity, he got to work on a follow-up to ride the hype and success that his new game series found him. He went back to his roots that found him success in the first place: player criticism. What was good with the first game? What was bad? What worked? What didn't? What did players want more of? What did they want less of? And how do I expand upon the story, world, characters, and gameplay? Ultimately, ending up with a sequel that cemented the name Five Nights at Freddy's into gaming history. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes everything the original did and makes it better. No out-of-control RNG losses. When the player loses, no matter how unfair it gets, it doesn't feel out of their control. The game's atmosphere is a little less creepy compared to the first, but the anxiety you get from this game makes you sweat bullets by the end. There are no doors. More about that later. And the animatronics no longer just stand awkwardly in the doorway, asking if you have heard about your car's extended warranty. Instead, when an animatronic appears in your office, you have to lock eyes with them and come to a mutual agreement on how you are indeed part of the furry fandom for the next 5 seconds, or you will die. There is nearly triple the amount of animatronics in this game than the last one. This game is
16 times the detail.
There is all new
rendering, lighting, and landscape technology. It is 4 times the size of Fallout 4.
And it's Scott's biggest game yet.
I was acting. Or was I?
And I will go on the record saying, in my last video, I was wrong, and popular MMOs actually played FNAF 2 first, and not FNAF 1. I didn't realize this fact until I was editing that video. Logically though, that means FNAF 2 is the game that really made me a fan of the series, being the first one I watched, and the first one I played. It was a pirated copy of FNAF 2 that I would play on a school laptop that could barely run Word, but it still introduced me to the franchise and got me hooked for more. Now, I played FNAF 2 the same day I played the first FNAF game. In fact, I switched over to FNAF 2 right after getting the life scared out of me thanks to Chica. I was really hoping my knowledge of the game from 8 years ago would come in clutch and save me from a few unnecessary scares, but I forgot how much this game builds up my anxiety levels due to me being unable to predict the jump scares. So, I was a little frightened going into this one, and the opening cutscene didn't help. Literally recoiled in chair. Yo, what? I never liked this Easter egg. I never liked this Easter egg. Yeah, on top of everything I mentioned FNAF 2 did, it's also the first game to have cutscenes. And I forgot they existed entirely. A detail that will come to haunt me for the entirety of the playthrough. Now, with all of that in mind, let me give you a warm welcome to the grand reopening of the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. We here at Fazbear Entertainment decided to have a full makeover of the brand to show that we are committed to family fun and, above all, safety. We understand that there are rumors circulating around from the previous location that leaves a blemish on our rather stellar history, and we would like to correct that. Starting, of course, with you, our nightly security guard. You are going to be our eyes and ears during the night, making sure nothing unusual happens or anyone suspicious makes their way in. While it might seem daunting at first, having the whole place to yourself, Freddy and friends will always be there to lend a helping hand should anything go wrong. Oh, and don't forget to smile, as you are now the nighttime face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Your first day should be a breeze, and from our point of view, what could go wrong? So, ladies and whoever made it past the intro, welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, a game of sitting still and getting paid minimal wage to not die. After the game is loaded in the new office, of which you will be spending the next 5 days of your life, you get a bad case of imposter syndrome, as there are 2 vents on either side of you, and a huge, never-ending void right in front. And just as the ambience and environment sucks you in, a familiar sound takes you right out of it. God damn it, not this guy again.
Why do you sound like that guy that probably died in the last one?
Yep, there is no escaping this man, even in death do us part, unless you mute him in the Discord call. But if you don't mute him and listen to the tale of the first night, it does fill the frontal lobe of your brain with the basic information of what you are meant to do in this game, and give some cool lore to fill in the silent air, as, like the first game, nothing will happen during this call. And if you want, you can skip to this point in the video if you just don't want to listen to my executive summary of the Night 1 phone call and really just want to get to the gameplay for some reason. Alright, looks like they left. That's great. This is my favorite part in the entire game. Let's do this. With a warm and friendly...
Hello? Hello?
The unknown phone guy goes into his Night 1 rambles of welcoming you to the job and tying up loose ends from the first game, a problem this series will continue to have. For some reason, he dances around, introducing the player to the new toy animatronics that Fazbear Entertainment made, letting the player know that they now have facial recognition, advanced mobility, and can even walk around during the day. I hope none of that comes back to bite them. However, all of these new upgrades have caused a few kinks to be heard, letting you know that the previous guard before you was moved to the day shift because of these kinks. The only explanation the phone guy gives you to explain these kinks is that the animatronics were never given a proper night mode. So, when things go dark, they go and check out your office, as, to them, that's where the nighttime party is being held, and they're a little sad they weren't invited. One of the solutions given to deal with this intrusion of peace is a music box over in the price counter video feed. You can wind it up remotely from the camera, and if you don't keep the lo-fi beats on, one of them, as the phone guy describes them, will become irritated, as they can no longer focus on their tasks and will no longer be very chill and relaxed. As for the rest of them, very descriptive, there is apparently an even easier solution. The empty Freddy Fazbear head. This one handy-dandy helmet of foam and fabric is indeed your one lifeline for keeping those pesky animatronics out of your life. Just dissuade their curiosity by donning the head of our main star and face of the place for at least a few seconds to stay safe in the world of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And don't worry, it even works on Freddy himself. Anything that wanders in should wander right out, guaranteed, or your blood and organs back. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any damages that may happen to a person while using said empty Freddy Fazbear head as a protective device. Now, something else worth mentioning to bridge the gameplay gap between the first game and this one. There are no doors. And I'm emphasizing this mainly because it was a standout announcement in the teaser for this game, and is also mentioned in the first night phone call. However, to replace those doors, you are given a flashlight, and while it can run out of power, the building cannot.
So don't worry about the place going nuts.
With that info dump over with, the phone guy gives the player a last quick summary of the gameplay mechanics, wishes them well, and hangs up. Though it might seem like he left you in the dark with nothing but a flashlight, in reality, he actually gave you all the tools necessary to survive this night. Wind the music box, check the lights. If you see an animatronic, put on the Freddy head. However, it's never just that easy, and right as the call ends, you notice one of the animatronics has already left the show stage. No, seriously. Almost immediately after the phone call ends, Toy Bonnie's patience for the next FNAF game's release runs dry, and so he does some in-person data mining to see if he can find any clues on who the new Night Guard actually is. Unfortunately, he hasn't caught up on the lore, and so he stops in either Party Room 3 or 4 to catch up on what the FNAF community already knew a few months ago. Now, as with the first game, the first night really doesn't have much going on. It's really to let the player get comfortable with the environment and the gameplay. As Markiplier put it,
Son of a bitch! Jesus. Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so...
although, as the player starts to lull into a false sense of security, the game decides to switch from casual ambience to competitive ambience. Clearly, it's to indicate that something is happening, like an alarm going off. But for now, you don't know who, what, when, where, how, or why. Your only option after checking the hallway and the vents is to dive into the cameras, as you begin your search to find the cause of the meme sound effect, stumbling upon the fact of how Toy Chica has now also left the stage. But that can't be the source of the sound. Where's Toy Bonnie? Realizing Toy Bonnie is probably the cause of the sound, you start a search for the rabbit, finding him crouched down next to the right air vent in the back of Party Room 2 that just so happens to lead into your office. You want to do something about the imposter, but as the game keeps your hands essentially tied behind your back, all you can do is sit and stare at him. You can't stare for very long though, as you still have to deal with the music box. And when you go to deal with the box, the game lets you know that someone has suspiciously entered one of the ventilation ducts. Checking the right vent camera, you see that Toy Bonnie has indeed vented, and your only means of ejecting him is to put on the Freddy head. But it doesn't seem like the right response, as he doesn't move from his position. It's in this moment that you finally realize that the music box is only there to make sure you can't stay in the Freddy head the whole night. And because you don't know what demons the music box is holding back, against your best judgment, you exit the Freddy head to wind the music box in the hopes that Toy Bonnie sits still. And during all of this, Toy Freddy decides he wants to take a more direct approach to meet the new security guard, as he just stands patiently at the end of the hall. Thankfully, it seems that Discord Light Mode is very effective at burning his retinas, causing him to stand still for the time being as you try to catch your breath from the hyperactive rabbit's suspicious activities. Unfortunately, Toy Bonnie knows your shift is nearing its end, and he decides it's time to give you one last problem before the bell rings. Thankfully, you check the right vent light just as he pokes his head into the office, and almost instinctively, you slam the mask down over your head and finally lock eyes with the robot that will toy with you for the rest of the week, as he awkwardly slides in front of your face and disappears without a trace. However, the night still isn't over yet, as there is a large, brown, two-legged bear still standing in the hallway, and he's moved closer. There's also Toy Chica, who could literally be anywhere at this point, and to top it all off, the music box is not going to give you your union-regulated 15-minute break. Unfortunately, as you try to keep the music box happy, Toy Freddy discovers the dark mode setting and uses the cover of night to sneak into your office. And right as you exit the cameras, his soulless eyes fixate on you, giving you only one option. And you know what it is. And that's the gist of night one. The animatronics may stop by once or twice, and Toy Chica may attack you from the left vent, although it's not as exciting. But by now it's too late. You're gonna make it to 6 a.m.
Yeah, I got, like, jump scared by crabs in the vents. I shouldn't say that, but yeah.
Playing this one level in VR, dude,
Literally having to like look down, grab the Freddy mask, and shove it on your face. No, that sucked. Second night. Woo!
You find yourself immediately back in the office without a break, and while it feels like it's going to be the same old charade as the first game of waiting for the call to end for something to happen, you realize that FNAF 2 has a tight schedule to keep of keeping you engaged. Now, before I get interrupted, another difference between this game and the first is that the nights are shorter, by 2 minutes in fact.
Impressive.
This is why in the beginning I mentioned anxiety. This small detail really changes how the game plays compared to the first. Starting, of course, with...
Phone!
Right. This guy. I'll, come back to that point later. The phone guy opens the call by congratulating you on making it past the first night. A well-deserved achievement, but this is the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and things are a little bit different this time around. He starts by addressing the older animatronics in the back rooms. Now, if you weren't using sweaty strats like me, you would have seen them on the first night cam tour. A rotting, withered Chica, Freddy, and a toilet with arms and legs that is supposed to be Bonnie, but the community just refers to him as
Toilet Bonnie?
And while they are indeed ugly, the phone guy mentions that they were fitted with some of the parts that the new toy animatronics use. My guess is advanced mobility. But he tries to assure you that they shouldn't be able to walk around. Although in the off chance they do, the Freddy head should work on them as well.
It even works underwater!
Following that, the phone guy goes on a bit of a nostalgia trip, thinking about the good old days and Foxy the pirate.
Oh wait, Foxy. Oh yeah, Foxy!
Foxy has apparently been backstabbed one too many times in Team Fortress 2 and has now gone Rage Pyro. Which means, unfortunately for you, he will spy check your disguise the whole night. Luckily though, your level 3 flashlight should deter him away from any chaos he might try to cause. Oh, on the topic of the flashlight, the phone guy recommends using it to, flashbang the other animatronics when you see them, which, in theory, should freeze them in place for a few seconds or so. Before he hangs up, he deeply expresses that keeping the music box wound is the only difference between life or death. He also gives you some information on what one of them is and the power they hold. According to the phone guy, it goes by the name of the Puppet and seems to pull the strings behind the scenes at Freddy's. But that's not all. It is apparently an all-knowing, all-seeing being that can go anywhere if not entertained by the sound of baby sensory videos. You also get warned that if it gets out, the Freddy head won't fool it, meaning there are now 2 animatronics that void the warranty of the Freddy head.